I'm now just doing probably 50 hours as opposed to 70, 80 hours. And so I had to explain to her that it's because I'm giving, I'm giving birth soon, going into labour in May. And she didn't realise I was pregnant because of the way that I'm working, and under my chef's coat nobody can see that I'm pregnant. She just thought I was just gaining weight. Hey guys, it's Rom here, head chef and owner and director of Khmer Angkor restaurant. We're here today to showcase a bit of our fried spring roll, one of our most popular dish as an entree actually in our restaurant. So this here is obviously our make and our take of this fried spring roll. I wouldn't say this is traditionally or authentically Cambodian, but it's definitely got the Cambodian touch and flavours. Just so that you know, actually you can use either garlic or garlic powder. In this instant we're actually using garlic powder. So that's just to your liking. If you don't like garlic, you can leave it out, it's not a problem. But the ingredients that we have is that. I have my own seasoning mix that we use in our restaurant. And the seasoning mix does contain a bit of MSG, salt and sugar. And I'll talk about MSG in a second, but we'll just run through. So with this seasoning mix, it's obviously gluten-free. It's also a vegan, seasoning that we use. And we also use cracked pepper, black cracked pepper. I've already pre-julienne the potatoes. So basically it's just in a fine julienne, because everything right now here, what we're wanting to do is find a nice spring vegetable, why it's called a spring roll. So we want like a nice spring vegetable, seasonal vegetable, what you can get. We've also got some onions that we'll be finally slicing later. And then julienne carrots to go with that, again to have that spring. Shredded cabbage, white cabbage. And then we've got some chives, spring onions, whatever you can get your hands on, but we just want some nice green touches and just a bit of that kind of like spring onion kind of taste to that, okay? So you can put as much or as little as the ingredient based on how much spring rolls you're wanting to do. Here today I'm just going to show you the basic of actually constructing the filling. So we're going to be slicing the onions. Just remember guys, when you're cutting any meats, any form of cutting, make sure that your hands are tucked back, your knuckles touching that back of that, so then that actually avoids you from actually cutting your fingers, okay? So it's not the speed, it's about how you handle your knife, and the speed will come later. Cutting that there, as you can see, is touching that, and my fingers, tips of my fingers is tucked to the back, so you can go without. Alright, there's that cut. And then just turn it around. As you can see, doesn't have to be too fine because it's going to be sauteed off. If you guys have got a nice grater, you can grate it, whatever it is. If you don't have a grater, again, I'm sure everybody's got a knife. Just have to finally slice it first. Right, just to get that julienne. If you don't have a grater, otherwise if you've got a grater, hey, that saves time and makes it easier. Lying flat, making sure that it's not moving, and then you spread this out so that you can start cutting, and this is called the julienne cut, yeah? That's your julienne cut, guys. Again, we're not looking for a fine. We're just we're just needing it kind of there, julienne, and then we're going to be sauteing that, so it's going to soften. And when you do the mixture, it's going to be nice and easy. We've got white cabbage. So white cabbage, together with the onions and things, all of these here have got some sort of sweetness to it, but we're looking for vegetables that's quite sturdy as well. So when you give into this, it gives a little bit of crunch at the end as well. And what we're wanting with this is just a nice shredded as well. Don't have to be too fine. Again, as we're saying, we're not fussy because all of the stuff here will be sauteed off and it'll be softened. This here is just our part to get a bit of graininess and a bit of fragrance. So you just probably want just battens of spring onion. That could be the one reason why it's called a spring. Into there. Alright, so that's now you've got those elements of the vegetables. The other one that just gives you a little bit more texture into our spring roll is vermicelli noodles. This is called the rice vermicelli noodles, or known as the glass noodles as well. So this noodle here, as you can see, it's like a translucent kind of noodle, and this here is used into our spring roll mix to kind of like bind it all together, because once you start sauteing all these vegetables off, it'll bring out the juice. Then the noodles will actually help absorb the juice. Okay, so what we'll do here is start sauteing all of these vegetables off. So in goes the onions, sizzling straight away. So what we're wanting here is a sauteing off, but not a complete cook through. We want to have our potatoes. My interest in Asian cooking in this time, so I wouldn't say this is very authentic Cambodian. Yes, my mum did used to make spring rolls, but it's mainly with meat. But obviously I got into the interest of going, oh, well, how can we combine this whole vegan, this vegetarian, you know, I'm quite interested in that type of cooking. So when you start tasting people's spring rolls, when you start tasting the flavours, I like to come home and actually experiment. So I'd say this is probably not mum's recipe. I have done something similar, but like I said, it's not completely vegetarian. But in time, it's just a little bit of what I've learned from mum of how the spring rolls are done, and then having my own creative mind and going, how can I make this vegetarian and what would work. So normally we would do this with a bit of pork mince, and make that as a pork and vegetable spring rolls. But this here, like I said, I have my own recipe of our seasoning mix, and I've actually come up with this recipe over 10 years ago. So the great thing about it is that we can weigh our ingredients, whether it's vegetable, whether it's meats, for every 1 kg we just use 2 tablespoons. But in this instant here, we're just going to do a sprinkle because we don't want to have it too salty, because normally our spring rolls is actually used to dip. We dip it with our sweet and sour dressing, which again, probably in another video of mine, we can probably show you the making of how we make the sweet and sour dressing. Very beautiful vegan sauce that we use. Yes, I know you vegans out there must love me, because it's super tasty and you wouldn't even know that there's got no fish sauce, to be honest. But yeah, you can see it's just starting to saute off here. I'm just cutting through the noodles just a little bit, so that when we're adding it in here, or when we're rolling, that it's incorporated right through. We're getting every little strands in our spring roll. Okay. You probably noticed that I haven't actually seasoned it at the moment. I'm just sauteing it off. And the reason behind this is because when your vegetables goes down a little, as soon as you put the seasoning into there, it actually brings out the moisture out, and you don't want you know, soggy kind of spring roll when you're going to roll it. So what's happening now is once it's done and that's in, then we can kind of season it. As I was saying before, you've got the garlic powder, or if you're using fresh garlic, the garlic has to go in with the oil at the start, and that will actually you know, saute off and bring out the nice fragrance and flavour of the garlic. But in here, just a sprinkle with our seasoning. It's just to go over. So now you're going to have Now I was just going to tell you guys about MSG just before. I know a lot of you will be thinking, oh, why is she adding MSG? Sorry guys, in authentic Cambodian cooking, MSG is used, and I'm not going to lie about it because we're all about authentic. But understanding behind MSG could also help you probably look at MSG in a different way, because commonly a lot of our food contains MSG without you probably knowing. So even some of your stock, if you see Flavour Enhancer 621 guys, and your potato chips and your stock, that's just MSG, and you're actually eating in your diets every day. But in minimised, just like salt, just like sugar, MSG is used in minimised, it should be fine, because all it's acting is just a flavour enhancer. In Asian cooking, to give that instant kind of like flavour and depth straight away, and having it fast without the brewing of hours and hours of stock just to give that flavour, that's what MSG does. It just flavour enhances your dishes straight away. Now we just got a bit of pepper. A lot of Cambodian dishes, actually, when it comes to stir fry or anything like that, it does come with a lot of pepper. Stir fry with pepper, everything with pepper. Especially in my hometown, Khmer, we are known to one of the best pepper, suppliers or growers. And it's really great to see that even in New Zealand they are now importing in Khmer pepper, Cambodian peppercorns. Because even back home we do like green pepper dishes with crabs and seafood dishes. Right, our filling mixture is ready to go guys. Now there's so many different type of spring roll sheets that you've got. Unfortunately this one here that we've got right now is not vegan, so sorry guys that are vegan out there, because it contains milk. So we are very honest with this, but when we have a supply of a different supply, there's another spring roll sheet that you can get that has got no milk in it. So it's depending now, this dish here is vegan, but it depends on what wrapper you're using to keep it vegan all the way. Oh, on a good night, we sell probably maybe 100 spring rolls, over 100 spring rolls. But if we're at a market, that's a different scenario because we're limited to our menu. So when you're limited to a menu, that means that you can go through more. So sometimes we can grow, sell up to probably around about 200, 300, maybe even up to 400 to 500 spring rolls. But that's talking about bigger markets that we do. Now guys, take note, this is the most important part, is when you're actually rolling the spring roll. Just make sure that your filling is a little bit cooled down as well, because otherwise it condensates and it can make the sheet really soggy. So you want that spring roll, and you want to have a nice crispy kind of spring roll. Make sure you're not overfilling your sheets. What we're doing here is just placing it probably like a quarter way through into the shape that you probably want. Now because I sit down and do sometimes 400 or 500, I obviously have my own routine, but in time you guys will be able to have your own consistency and how you're going to do it. So most importantly, it's all together, as you can see, nice vibrant colours, got everything there. The sheet goes into there. The first thing that you need to do, tuck it and make sure that it's firm. When you tuck it and it's nice and firm, this is the first stage. What it does is that when you're frying this or you're biting into this, it actually contains, nice and compact. So when you're biting, you're having every single bite in your mouth. When you have it loose, the very moment you take the first bite, your spring roll falls apart, and that's where you get the messy, and you're trying to handle all that's dropping out everywhere. So this is the very most important, and I'm just using water, okay? If you find that your spring roll is not sticking too well, you can use cornstarch, potato starch, anything, just whatever you want into there, so that it can keep hold. Yeah, then all the way through, and then you're going to have your spring roll into there. Yeah, that's your finishing product on here. So that was the way that we do it. And right, after these babies are done, we are now frying it off. We're wanting to fry this off at probably at medium heat, not too high, but not too low, because when you're doing frying that's too low, it's absorbing the oil, and it makes the sheep soggy. Yeah, so guys, just so you know as well, you know, still over 7 months pregnant at the moment, still working and still doing, you know, long hours. It's because this is part of what I enjoy and what my passion is. Even our neighbouring guys over here near our restaurant has approached me and said she notices that I'm not doing as much hours as I used to, you know. I'm now just doing probably 50 hours as opposed to 70, 80 hours. And so I had to explain to her that it's because I'm giving birth soon, going into labour in May. And she didn't realise I was pregnant because of the way that I'm working, and under my chef's coat nobody can see that I'm pregnant. She just thought I was just gaining weight. You know, being a mum is definitely, they always say this is a full-time job. Last year we lost Dad. However, Mum has stepped up and helped look after the children. That's why I am able to commit that 50, 60 hours a week, but still in the same time we give time to our kids on some times off. And at the same time as well, now I'm just allowing some kind of, maybe once a week, take our little boy, who is now turning 4 in next month, and then with baby on the way soon, I will take a little bit of time off. But every time that I have given birth, it's my 3rd baby now. My first daughter, I think that was the longest time I had off, was 3 months. With Hunter, my almost 4, we started owning our first business out in Kaipoi, and that's when 6 weeks after I had to go back into work on Mother's Day, because he was born in April and Mother's Day was 6 weeks after, and we got totally slammed in the restaurant. So I went out to help for a couple of hours, but it ended up being the whole night. But yes, nothing stops you from being the mum and loving your children, and this food around that, we even bring our kids. The kids come here and they have a wee play around. They know all the other shop vendors around here as well, and going to everyone's stall, and they're all really good. Giving him chocolates, giving him lollies, bribing him with food. And then we have a really lovely security guy in here, which I call him my brother. You know, he's not related, but he's really good. He does sometimes take Hunter for a walk around when he has to go and have a look around the sites and things like that. And Hunter goes and holds his hand. So it's a very nice family-oriented kind of feeling being in here. And food is always what we always say, that it brings people together. It's the way to everyone's heart, the way that we as Cambodian show our love. Definitely this is one thing that I love doing. And yeah, I hope to be able to continue to be able to show you some more of Cambodian cuisine and the way that Cambodians do the cooking, and be able to explain and abbreviate more on the way things are done, because I'm still learning, as we all are. But yes, I would really like people to know and be introduced to Cambodian cooking, because it's something that we don't want to lose, you know, especially generation. Our kids need to know this. And the great thing about this whole media and this whole video and technology is we're able to express all of that through that, and hopefully it won't get lost. But anyways, our spring rolls are done. Nice and golden, as you can see, and crispy. We can now, as you can see, Nice, beautiful, golden, crispy spring rolls. As I was saying before, we do our homemade sweet and sour dressing. This, guys, is what adds that extra level to our spring rolls. This is the sauce of all sauces for Cambodian cooking, authentic dishes especially. This sauce, we call it dietary, which means fish, actually, fish sauce. Paam, which means sweet. You're going to hear the crunch. And you can see how when you're cutting into it, it's not falling apart. So that when you cut there and you're dipping with the sauce, that sauce can now incorporate right through inside. So we always try to have a dip, you know, a mouthful, and then a dip every time, because that sauce is the element and the highlight that makes Cambodian fried spring rolls different to Chinese or other spring rolls, because the sauce is what brings that unique, authentic flavour. So let's have a taste test and see how it goes. I can taste the nice fresh spring vegetables in there, the crunchiness from the pastry, and then the sweet and sour kind of balance from the sweet and sour dressing. So there you guys go. That's it. Cambodian spring roll made to its best, and the process around it, you understand why we're always rolling 500 to 1,000 at a time, because it's so time consuming. Very nice. So guys, if you like our video and you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to StoryBites and watch out for our new upcoming videos. Thanks guys.